Creating a business or improving an existing one that leans into circular business practices requires a paradigm shift in how we think about business models, product design, logistics, and more. There won't be a one-size-fits-all model for how to create circularity. It'll be super dependent on your industry, your product, the kind of consumer you serve, among other things. But here are 5 places to start. First, examine the business model and consider ways to do it differently than others have done before. For example, in the apparel industry, the status quo is to sell people clothing that they keep. The problem is that apparel is something we throw away a lot of, and with consumers looking for unprecedented levels of trendiness and turnover in their wardrobes, the demand for clothes and the waste that they're creating after only a few years is astronomical. So what we're seeing as apparel companies innovate is that some are leaning into clothing rental. Companies like Nuuly let customers rent 6 pieces of clothing for a month at a time, and Nuuly handles all the logistics and cleaning. This allows trend-conscious consumers to cycle new looks without buying the piece, and then others get to wear it as well. In retrospect, it seems as obvious as the idea of renting a movie. Explore how your business model might be amenable to leasing, buyback programs, or other product as a service models. Secondly, invest heavily in product design. When thinking about circularity, a lot of businesses focus on the end of life of their products, like how can they be recycled. This is obviously important, but it's just as critical, if not more so, to consider how to design the products at their beginning of life for that circularity. Thinking carefully about what materials to use, where recycled materials can be integrated, and how those materials can be made to last are all important to circular product design. And if you want to make sure that products are able to be disassembled and recycled at the end of their lives, this is something you have to think about at the product design stage at the beginning of a product's life. Steelcase, a leading manufacturer of office furniture, incorporates circularity into their designs by using recycled steel, aluminum, and plastics. But they also design their products for durability, repairability, and recyclability. Their furniture is built to last and can be easily disassembled at the end of its life for recycling or refurbishment. Speaking of built to last, consider adding capabilities and products to your lineup that help consumers extend the life of the things they buy from you. For durable goods, you might offer special cleaning kits, patches, or touch-up paint sets to encourage consumers to fix items themselves rather than buy new ones. For consumables, you might find ways to create reuse and refill systems that encourage people to refill the packaging with more of your product. This can reduce packaging waste, and it has the added benefit of building consumer loyalty, which can be especially important for consumables. Fourth, keep in mind that your products will only be circular if they actually make their way to a responsible end of life. And this often means engaging your customers to make sure they know what to do with products when they're done with them. One way we see this accomplished is through take-back programs. Many businesses are now designing their product for resale or recycling, but they'll only realize those benefits if they can get the product back from the consumer. For instance, Hydro Flask has made its bottles so that the metals can be recycled into new products. But this isn't something that can be done through a consumer's typical curbside recycling stream with other metals like steel cans. Instead, Hydro Flask needed to invest in the ability and special partnerships to recycle the bottles. And they needed to encourage consumers to send their bottles back to Hydro Flask when they're done with them. Being really clear with customers about the end-of-life options, like including recycling instructions in an insert when the consumer first buys the product, can help ensure that you actually get your products back later. Lastly, if you're going to have a circular business model, your reverse logistics will become as important as the logistics it took to get the product in a customer's hands in the first place. Especially if you're asking the consumer to get involved, for instance, by sending a product back to you, you need to make it as easy as possible for them to do so. For example, when they're next shopping on your site, can you prompt them to trade in existing products they have that they may not be using? Or could you generate a free shipping label to make getting it back to you easier. And then consider your warehousing and inventory management for the items that are coming back to you. It's relatively easy to keep products organized when you're first selling them, but it's more complex for items that are making their way back to you. Make sure you've tackled these details. And that's 5 ways to start thinking about making your business model more circular.